Hi friends, today we are talking about trends. Not current trends, but trends from the past. 10 previous trends that aren't popular at the moment, maybe you haven't thought about in a while, but that I, in my heart of hearts, still deeply appreciate. I think it's so fun to pull out trends from past eras that we don't see much anymore, dust them off, and just appreciate and enjoy the value and beauty they still have. Maybe even examine the roles these trends have played in our lives over time. Also, I just want to say this video concept was 100% inspired by other creators who I've seen do the same thing, so this is not an original idea. You should check out these others' videos as well. Okay, let's get into it. First up, we have those spiky ball earrings, the ones from the 2000s. I wore them in middle school. I don't know if these were popular for everyone at that time or just for like kids or younger people at that time, but either way, I was obsessed with these. My peers were obsessed with these. We all loved them. They were so cool and fun and funky, and they were also such a fun texture to like touch and squish. Kind of a great like tactile fidget, actually. Honestly, now that this has occurred to me, I am dying for these to come back. Like, can't you imagine a chic updated runway take on these that's like monochrome and maybe it dangles down and it's a little bigger? That would slay, right? Am I crazy? I think it would actually fit really well into fashion right now. And aside from whether they would fit into the current fashion landscape or not, these are genuinely still just so funky and so appealing to me. I don't feel that way about everything on this list. Some I can appreciate without needing a comeback, but these, I just feel like it's time. 2000s nostalgia in fashion is in full swing. Why haven't we made this happen yet? Next up, we have another mainstay of my middle school into high school years, the poof. The little hair poof with your bangs or just the front pieces of your hair or even like the whole top of your hair pulled back and styled to be puffy and voluminous. I'll say it. I think this looks good. It adds volume, it pulls your hair off your face, it's easy to do. What's not to love? Honestly, as I go through the list I put together for this video, I fear I'm gonna talk myself into reintegrating many of these into my wardrobe because as I'm explaining my reasoning, I'm like, yeah, that is great. We should be doing that again. And like, yes, obviously this look reminds me of a certain time. It's very of that era. But all these girls look really cute like this, I think. And I also love that this is like a little mini nod to a 60s bouffant hairstyle, which I also really like. And then that reminds me of Amy Winehouse, which of course her hair is iconic. I guess the more retro version leaves the bangs out and then does more volume at the crown of the head, and the more 2000s version pulls the bangs in and that's where the volume is, you know? Honestly, I think both work. I mean, some executions work better than others, but what can I say? Overall, I love a voluminous hairstyle that pulls your hair up or back. I think it looks good. You know what could never be an outdated trend because we literally always need them? Comfortable, high quality socks like Bombas. I am so hyped to be sponsored by Bombas again in this video because as I am constantly repeating, they are just my most comfortable, most durable, most favorite socks I own, and they have been for 5 years ever since I got my first pair, which I still wear to this day, by the way. They're so soft yet so sturdy at the same time, and honestly, as I have tried more and more different variations, different styles, different pairs, I've just become more and more impressed because everyone is a hit. Bombas is also B Corp certified, and for every item purchased, one is donated to support people experiencing homelessness. So when you shop there, you're not only getting an excellent quality basic you know you'll use, you're also doing a little extra good while you're at it. They also offer international shipping now, and they have a 100% happiness guarantee with free returns and replacements. So if you've got some worn out or holey socks in the back of your drawer and you're looking to fill that hole in your wardrobe, I highly recommend Bombas. You can scan this QR code or click the link below and use code BEEPWORLD for 20% off your first purchase. All right, the next older trend that I still love is a little more recent. It's those brown button-up corduroy skirts. You know the ones every girl wore with like a black turtleneck to Thanksgiving in 2015. I actually never owned one of these, but I always wanted to. I just think they're classic. Like, how could you go wrong with a neutral, straight, simple miniskirt in the classic and cozy material of corduroy? I love the textural detail and interest of the corduroy and of the buttons themselves. It's versatile, but still has some dimension to it, very much up my alley style-wise. These also have a bit of a 70s vibe to me, and you know, I don't dress in a 70s inspired style that often, but I love to see it. It's a great fashion era. It's one of my favorites. Overall, I just think the skirt is always a serve. She could never flop, and it's time to resurrect her from the back of your closet. Okay, next up is actually makeup, not clothing, and I feel like this could be a little bit of a divisive one, but it is matte makeup. I did my makeup today with this in mind. As you can see, this was intentional. I feel like makeup now is just entirely about gloss and shine and having like a dewy glow. And that is also a look I love. I think it looks beautiful. It's also something I like to dabble in with my own makeup. But I really think so many different styles of makeup can look so beautiful, including a more matte makeup look, which we are just not really seeing appreciation for at this moment. A matte lip, especially, just like a solid field of color that's more about highlighting like the silhouette, the overall shape of the mouth, versus the shiny, juicy, voluminous big lips that are the current beauty trend. Something about the rich, velvety look of a matte lip just feels, I don't know, almost like artistic or painterly to me. I think people associate matte makeup with the 2010s a lot, which makes them averse to it, but I really associate it with the 90s. Specifically, the makeup in Twin Peaks comes to mind. Honestly, that was actually my inspo to add this makeup look to this list in the first place, because all the girls in that show just look so incredibly beautiful all the time, but in a very like understated way. I know they're beautiful actresses, and is it maybe just that I wish I looked like Shelley Johnson, aka actress Machen Amick? It's possible. This might just be about that. But listen, regardless, I love this look. It feels very like understated, mysterious, artistic to me. Our next old trend that I still love is definitely the most recent trend on this entire list. It might be controversial, but it is the swirly marbled psychedelic print of like 2020, 2021. I think this pattern on a very specific type of garment styled in a very specific way is very emblematic of peak COVID era, hyper speedy TikTok micro trends. We were all just like a little sick in the head and fashion got weird for a couple years there. We're still recovering. And I think people hate on this print because it reminds them of that time. Just like the societal upheaval of COVID in the first place, and then also the like super hyper overconsumption that sort of corresponded with that as people were trying to cope psychologically. So I think since then, people have really just wanted to like forget that time as much as possible and put as much distance between then and now as they can, which in a way also feels more overconsumption culture, but that's a whole different conversation. Regardless, I think that's why so many trends that popped up that year phased out so quickly. People just wanted to forget that time and any reminder of it. However, that does not mean all the trends of that time are actually inherently ugly or bad, even though that's how a lot of people view them and talk about them now. I think many of them were actually very fun and cute. Like, for example, this one. I think it has sort of psychedelic 60s vibes. Can you tell I love when a recent trend is like a reference or a play on an older 20th century trend? We're seeing patterns here. I like the organic, curvy, soft shapes. I, of course, love that it can be really multicolored because I love a pattern with lots of different colors in it, as you can see. I don't know, it's just an abstract pattern. It feels very funky to me, and it kind of reminds me of a lava lamp, and I can't be mad at that. I think really the only issue with this look is when it's styled in a super basic or super trendy way without much distinct perspective or styling put into it. But I think if you took this pattern or one of these pieces and styled it in like a totally different way now, it could look really cool. I think it still holds that original appeal of something really sort of funky and organic and a little psychedelic. There's a lot there to like. The next old outdated trend that I still love is the icon, the legend, the army green Anorak jacket. This was very popular in the 2010s, but honestly, to me, it's just a classic. It's the perfect, casual, versatile jacket. The green is nice because it's a color, but it's muted enough to sort of function like a neutral. The style is great because it's very practical and easy to wear, but it still looks a little more styled and intentional than something like a puffer. This jacket has many strengths, I think. This is another one I never actually owned, but always wanted at the time. Maybe that's another running theme in this video. But I did have a mustard yellow Anorak style coat that was sort of my daily winter coat in high school, and I loved that thing. I wore it daily in the winter for years. Anyway, I think this is a classic, and honestly, with all the more like tactical, gorpy clothing that's been on the rise lately, I could really see something like this making a comeback. Maybe it would have to be in a different color or styled in just a completely different way than in the 2010s, but I feel like it could look surprisingly fresh. I honestly wish I had one to try styling right now. If you all would want to see me thrift like specific outdated trends and then try to style them for 2025 in a video sometime, please let me know in the comments because that honestly sounds really fun. And this is one I'm sure I could thrift. Okay, the next old trend that I still love is more of a motif than an item. It's bees. Remember in the 2010s when bees were just suddenly everywhere? They were on jewelry, they were on t-shirts, they were on tea towels, on your home decor, on a mug. you couldn't escape them. I actually did some Googling while preparing for this video, very scholarly of me, I know, and I confirmed the hashtag bring back the bees arose in the 2010s. And there were even some marketing campaigns with like Honey Nut Cheerios and Burt's Bees that were all around like the Save the Bees movement. So suffice it to say, bees were on people's minds. In the 2010s. And to me, this really goes to show how pop culture and social issues end up interacting with fashion in ways you might not expect. Because this was pretty ubiquitous. Like, I think of it as this like, you know, earthy girl Tumblr aesthetic, but I feel like eventually it also reached like suburban moms buying a mug at Target, you know? It was truly expansive in our culture. And you know what? The bee aesthetic hype seems to have died down, but the bees still need saving, first of all, so jot that down. And secondly, nature can never go out of style. I truly believe that. Like maybe a bee depicted in a certain art style on a certain style of t-shirt could end up looking outdated or something. But like motifs from nature in general as a concept, I don't think any of them can be outdated. And I also love a bug motif. Bee stuff is again something I enjoyed seeing. It was like an aesthetic I was into, but I don't think I ever actually owned. But what I do have are these cicada earrings I got in 2017 that are still one of my favorite jewelry items I own to this day. Just all around, bugs are cool, bees are cool. I love to see fashion uplifting bugs. Bug supremacy on Beep World. All right, the next old trend that I still love is one some may consider outdated, but again, I consider it timeless. It's chevron print. I think for some people, this has a very strong association with the 2010s. I associate it a little more with the 70s, which is more of a pro than a con to me. But again, I would argue an abstract pattern is broad enough and thematically neutral enough that it really cannot be confined to any specific era or style. Like it can become more trendy and less trendy at certain times, but I feel like it can't be out. Maybe if it's like a trendy pattern in a trendy color palette on a trendy style of dress from a certain time, that might look a little dated later on. But I think chevron is a great pattern. And if you like stripes or plaid or checkerboard, gingham, I feel like this pattern is less common, but it has a very similar sort of straight lined geometric look and appeal. It would work in a lot of similar ways in similar outfits. Actually, because those straight geometric patterns have been so popular in recent years, I could really see chevron pattern having like a mainstream comeback soon. So this might be an outdated trend I still love, but also a trend prediction. We'll see. I mean, just look at these example photos. Like this doesn't even register as looking outdated, right? It's a very easy pattern to adapt and reinterpret to contemporary tastes, but it feels a little funky, a little zany, a little more unique, but still versatile and easy to wear. And I love that. Next up, we have something that has actually sort of already started to come back, at least on the runway. I think many people still think of it as outdated. It is high-low hems on skirts and dresses. I feel like these used to be more short skirt in the front, long skirt in the back. And now the newer iterations are more midi skirt in the front, maxi skirt in the back. But I'm still on board with both. I just think these look cool. I love an asymmetrical garment. I love an interesting shape. And I also love a garment with great movement, which I think is an underrated feature of these skirts. This is one I actually did own in high school. Honestly, the feeling of walking down the hallway at school with this beautiful high-low train fluttering out behind you, unmatched. I also love how whimsical this is, maybe because of the beautiful fluttering movement. My high-low skirt from high school definitely made me feel like a fairy or a fantasy maiden or like a magical pirate or something, which feels very aligned with what a lot of people are into right now. I also think these would be great for layering, like a high-low skirt on top of another longer skirt, or even a high-low dress over some pants. Could be cool. Could be very cool. And a final pro of these skirts is that they are unexpectedly practical because they allow you to wear a short skirt in the front without worrying about exposing yourself in the back. You can bend over more easily, you have more movement. It just feels a little more protective, which I feel like could actually make these pretty practical and convenient to wear. Like I said, I wore one to high school. Finally, the last old trend that I still love is something I don't really see people talk about as an old trend, but it definitely was, at least in my circles. It is those 80s colorful windbreakers. Obviously, this was a thing in the 80s, but I'm thinking of it in the 2010s. When I was in high school and college, I feel like people were really into these. People were really into thrifting them. I had one. All my friends had them. It was a thing. I still think these are so fun. A lot of the things on this list, I feel like you could sort of reinvent and rework and restyle to make them work now. But this one, I'm like, honestly, it was already perfect. Because it's so heavily associated with the 80s, I feel like it doesn't quite have that same like 2010s ick that certain other trends from that time might have. And I feel like I would wear it like exactly the same now. Like I genuinely would still wear this exact outfit. I love this outfit. I think I also feel more positive nostalgia for this one because it reminds me of that specific like indie artsy, you know, high schooler and college kid culture of that time. So I have much more specific positive nostalgic associations with it. Again, with like the sporty gorpy styles that are popular, this is another one I could kind of see coming back. And I do think, honestly, I could be very easily influenced into reintegrating this into my closet. I just think it's so fun and funky. Maybe I've just influenced myself to try to thrift one. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, y'all. Those are all the old, outdated trends I have to discuss today. I can't wait to hear your opinions on them in the comments. If you hate them, if you love them, if you still wear them, I would love to know. Oh, and I heard if you do leave a comment, watch another video, like maybe this one right here, and subscribe to my channel, your most favorite trend from when you were in high school will come back into fashion.